Ugh. Okay. Literal equations. Literal equations have a lot of variables, more than one variable. We need to solve for a specific variable. So in this case, we want to solve for c. E equals mc squared. I start by dividing both sides by m. E divided by m is equal to c squared. Then, square root both sides. I get the square root of e over m is equal to c. How about b? R times q squared is equal to tmg. Now what? tg. So rq squared divided by tg is equal to m. Sweet. So you've seen those examples before, but you haven't seen examples C and D. This is new. This will be a good test to see if you can do a material that's new on the test and on your homework, or if you can only do stuff that's review. Because right now, basically everything's been review, hasn't it? Well, here's a new type of problem. See if you can do it. I have to solve for x. Why is this more difficult to solve for x in this situation than solving for the other variables in the previous two problems? Yeah, there's two x's, isn't there? It's not just one x. There's a couple of them. So here's a way that we isolate the x. First of all, we're going to cross multiply. And when we cross multiply, we get 2px minus 2r is equal to 3rx minus 12. Is everybody okay with that? Second step. You have to do this every time. I'm going to gather all the variables on one side that have an x. Those that don't have an x are going to go on the other side. So 2px minus 3rx equals 2r minus 12. Sweet. Now we'll see if you can figure out what to do in this situation. I need not two x's, but one x. Yeah, factor out the x. Very good. 2p minus 3r. Natalie's feeling real good about herself. She's like, I could teach this class. All right, so, so now that we have x times that expression, I can divide by that binomial and be done, right? So x is 2r minus 12 divided by 2p minus 3r. How's that? Is that the same at, it is the answer, is that the same though as 12 minus 2r divided by 3r minus 2p? Yes. It's different by a factor of -1 on the top, right? And by -1 on the bottom. And -1 divided by -1 is 1. So you can see that these two are the same. If only one of them was different by a factor of -1, then they wouldn't be the same. Okay? So let's try letter D. What do I do first? Yep, distribute. Awesome. Love it when we talk using math terms. What do I do next? Gather all the x's to one side. Sweet. Now what? Factor out the x. And divide. So part of your assignment today is going to be solving literal equations. Okay, solving literal equations. You're going to have to make sure you know how to do that for the test. Okay. All right, we finish up example 7, then you have time to work. Okay. All right. A ball is thrown into the air. has initial velocity, meaning it has some kind of speed and momentum behind it as you throw it. Initial velocity is 45 feet per second. Initial height is 6.8 feet. Um, and the height is modeled by this equation there. In the equation, do you see the numbers 45 and 6.8? Yeah, that's not by mistake, okay? Suppose that we're going to say Cole punts a ball, okay? Cole punts a ball with an initial velocity of, we'll say, 60 feet per second, okay? And when he kicks it, it's at an initial height of 3 feet. Well, that would be the equation for the height of that football, okay? The negative 16 has to do with the constant of gravity. Gravity constantly has a negative impact on objects in the air, right? So it doesn't matter let's suppose that you're launching a rocket from the ground and it has an initial velocity of 200 feet per second. But since it's on the ground, it has no initial height. Okay? That's all it would be. So you're going to see these type of equations pop up. That's always initial velocity, and that's always your initial height. And then the front constant is your constant for gravity. If you ever see negative 4.9 in front, that has to do with if you're working in meters. So we're working in feet right now. Anyway, question is, what is the height of the ball after 1 second? How do I determine the height after 1 second? Yeah, plug in 1. H of 1 is negative 16 times 1 squared plus 45 times 1 plus 6.8. And if you just plug it in exactly like it looks, I'll give you the answer. 35.8, what's my label? Feet. Second question is, when does it have a height? At what time does the ball reach a height of 20 feet? Oh. Yeah, so 20 is equal to negative 16t squared plus 45t plus 6.8. Now what? Subtract the 20. 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 45t minus 13.8. Sweet. Now what? Plug it in our calculator. Wow. Going to y equals? Okay, it doesn't factor, so what are we going to do then? Quadratic formula. Okay, so negative b, negative 45 plus or minus square root of 45 squared minus 4 times a is negative 16 times c is negative 13.8 divided by negative 32. Now, for those of you who maybe have the quadratic formula plugged into your calculator, you could just enter it that way. I know a guy who makes YouTube videos, and he made a really good one in the last 4 minutes and 2 seconds. And if you just search on his channel, quadratic formula, you'll find a very quick video on how to plug that into your calculator. So we'll get to that later on. But right now, let's work it out by hand here. Okay. Got 45 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 13.8. And I get that. Now, what do I have to do with that? Okay, so here's something new for you. Okay, I want to take the square root of that. That's the last answer that my calculator has generated. So I went second square root, and then I went second, and then I'm going to press answer, A-N-S. See that? So it just grabs that and takes the square root of that. So I get negative 45 plus or minus 33.79 divided by negative 32. Now, let's think about this. How many times is the ball going to have a height of 20 feet? y twice. Yep. Very good. Once on the way up, once on the way down. Unless it was the maximum height, then that wouldn't work out. Okay. All right. So how do I come up with two results from this? Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I have to do parentheses. Negative 45 plus 33.79 parentheses. I'm gonna divide that by negative 32, and I get 0.35. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. It's not negative 13.8, is it? It's negative 13.2, right? Sorry about that. So 45 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 13.2. And square root the answer, and I get 34.35. That looks closer to what I had earlier today. 34.35. Nobody caught my mistake. Are you guys sleeping? All right. So we'll try again. Negative 45 plus 34.35, and we're divided by negative 32, and I get 0.33. So that's when it's on its way up, right? At 0.33 seconds, it reaches a height 20 feet on the way up. Now, I type that expression in once. I'm going to do the same thing, except it's going to be a subtraction sign, right? Second entry. And then I could just scroll back here and change that plus to a minus. I got a calculator manual. You could read it. That's how I learned. So 2.48. So those are my two times, 0.33 seconds and 2.48 seconds. I'm going to teach you all sorts of tricks to the trade with your calculator this year. Don't worry. Okay? In fact, we have 2 days where all we do is play around the calculator. Okay. All right, how about this? What time does the ball reach its maximum height? What shape does this make if I graph it? Parabola, right side up or upside down? Upside down. Now, what do we call that spot where it reaches its maximum height? The vertex, very good. Now, I want to know the time at which it reaches it. What's the formula I use to figure that out? Yeah, it's right here, folks, right? It's part of the quadratic formula. There's no mistake why that happens. If you, awesome. So we're going to do negative b divided by 2a. And so what's negative b? Negative 45. The board's angry at me. Okay. Negative 45 divided by negative 32. What do you get? 1.41? So at 1.41 seconds, it reaches its maximum height. Now I want to find the maximum height. Plug it in. Negative 16 times 1.41 squared plus 45 times 1.41 plus 6.8. So I plug the 1.41 in, and I get 38.44. Last question. What time is it when the ball hits the ground? What do I do there? The height is 0. Well, how do I do that? Quadratic formula. going to type that in. 45 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 6.8. I get that. I'm going to square root it. And because I'm swift with the keys, I'm going to go second answer. Boom! 49.6. So I add them and divide by negative 32. I get negative 0.14 seconds. Does that make sense? Negative 0.14. Because it starts going up at a height of 6.8 feet, right? So it would have been before 0 seconds that it was actually, at 0. So we got to find the other one. If I second entry, I take that same piece, but instead of a plus, I go minus. That's going to bring me 2.96. Which one works? Yeah, the positive one. 2.96 seconds when it hits the ground. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, you got about 10 problems for your assignment. You're not going to have an assignment tomorrow. Tomorrow you have all day to work. I will not interrupt your learning. Because we do not have PLC meetings in the morning, you won't have a shortened hour either. So remember, you show up at school at 8 o'clock. You'll have a full 50 minutes in this class. You have a good 15 minutes right now to work and ask questions. Does anybody need a study guide? Everybody got your study guide? Does anybody need a homework cover sheet, or does everybody have that? William needs one. Jackson? Joe needs one? Joe was paying attention. He was just